everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, and our co-sponsor CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. I am back, ladies and gentlemen. We are here. I am no longer sick. I am making all the classic mistakes that you know I do.
Yeah.
Which is great. But I am Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
Hi, how's it going?
Ruben Bressler.
We can just call it if you want. We can just not.
We can just back up. We can just back it all. Let's just back it all the way up, and I'll just do it all over again. It's
and
fine.
Our card sponsor, Co-Hoarder.
Our card sponsor thing.
You can get stuff cooled in stores every card stock.
Well, we also get started with our Trumpet Blast. You can get one if you support us at our highest level on Patreon. We don't have any this week, but maybe next week we shall.
Hey, don't give us money for that intro. That's not.
Wow. Just
next week
will
be better if we have a Trumpet Blast.
What?
Well,
Ruben.
With that, we kick it off with the first pick and the giveaway. The giveaway this week is a set of 4 Challenger decks.
Nice.
Yeah, there is the set of 4 Challenger decks link right there, and that's a pretty good one, I think.
Yeah.
So talk to me. What are these?
These are the built for standard decks that Wizards put together. It's the one that has like Tezzeret and Chandra's in one of them.
Oh, really?
The vehicles deck, the Second Sun
we're
deck.
giving away 4 of those?
All whole
4?
thing, the whole
All
shebang.
4?
That's what we're doing here.
That's what we're doing.
We're keeping
I
it
have
real.
the blue and white one, and I was able to, with just a couple dollars worth of upgrades, I was able to go and play in standard side events and opens and GPs and FNM and still do reasonably well. So it's a great way to get in a standard if you're thinking about it. Standard is sweet right now, contrary to popular opinion and contrary to fears of Chain Whirler, especially if you ain't playing a deck that cares about Chain Whirler, like the control deck. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, and thanks much to the Immortal Squee, subscribing for 3 months in a row. That is
Wow,
fantastic.
thank you.
Thank you so very much. And get in there with those entries to win all 4 of them. You get a whole thing. And right now, and for the next little bit less than an hour, for what it's worth, you can get the entire set of Challenger decks for $79.99 on CoolStuffInc.com. Because hey, they sponsor the show, and it's honest to God a good deal. They're $20 each. That seems terrific.
That's
an insane deal, honestly.
Right. So that's happening again. That was a daily deal for today. I found it this morning. I was like, guys, it's just $80, man, the whole thing. So we'll give away a set of those. Good luck to those who are entering it. Get started with our first pick.
It had to be the first pick. It had to be.
Aaron, could you give us the the brass tacks of what's happened here?
So Ben Friedman is a competitive Magic player who has been getting some camera time lately. I think he did really well at GP Vegas. He brought Grixis Death Shadow back to the forefront and kind of faded for a little bit. And Ben decided to make a tweet late last night that basically said there are too many Twitter thoughts in the Magic multiverse. And this morning, a lot of us woke up and knowing what a thought is, we were, kind of amazed that somebody would post something like this and that they would say something like this. And before we all knew it, the tweet sort of got shared a whole bunch and everybody kind of chimed in, and it turned into sort of the controversy of the day as to what that word means and what it means for a pro player to say this and whether or not they mean it, and jokes not landing and things like that. And so that was sort of the scandal of the day, and everybody got involved, everybody had an opinion, and it was what everybody was talking about today.
Yeah, and ultimately, I said my piece about it, and to be clear, one of the things I did it for, not that Ben didn't necessarily already know what I was saying, maybe did, maybe didn't, but ultimately the idea that I wanted everyone to be on the same page. I want to be like, just so you know, this is why this is bad. This is why this is, not positive, not in a good direction for anyone to go in terms of the way our community interacts and sees people and has a history of inclusion. And I think you saw that they apologize. We're talking about they as in Pascal Maynard and Ben Freeman individually. Both of them have been like, we screwed up, and that's it. Sure. That is the end of it. This whole, like, we're going to eat each other alive. No, you do something dumb. You're like, wow, that was dumb. I'm sorry. The end of the story. That's it.
All you can do is apologize. And, you know, they both of those and the other folks who seem to be repentant a little bit over usage of a weapon that they didn't know what kind of ammunition it held. I mean, I am tending to believe them. But that is also coming from a position of I'm not the one who has to decide if I believe them. So, you know, it's certainly there are lots of lessons here. Number one, if you are a Magic the Gathering celebrity who has a presence on social media, verify with a second party before you do anything like this. Also, don't go to bed immediately, because this was left to fester for 8 hours. And he woke up to 300 notifications. It's just not. There were a lot of misplays here from a man who's known for his technical prowess with control decks. I think that there are a lot of lessons to be learned here. If you are we have a couple of Magic subculture celebrities on this show and also in the chat. This is a lesson to be learned from. There's no pitchfork coming from me. In this case, I mean, you got to be a little bit, you got to try a little bit harder to catch my ire for this one. Like I still follow Ben on Twitter, for example. Like, I didn't unfollow him based on this. But yeah, I mean, this was a hell of a firestorm to just sort of come up kind of out of nowhere. And the final lesson here is ignorance is not an excuse. You got to know what you're doing. Twitter, everyone sees everything on social media. They see your which tweets you like. They see your Reddit comment history. Your Instagram follows. Literally everything is in public, and so you got to be very careful when you're a guy like Ben Friedman or a guy like Ruben Bressler or anybody.
Yeah, I mean, what he said struck a nerve, because there's been a lot of talk about thoughts lately in other gaming areas, particularly when it comes to streaming and video games, and this has been a very polarizing topic. And so we've been dealing with this sort of thing in other areas, and it kind of bled into the Magic culture eventually. And what's so frustrating about this is that when you say the word thought, which means that hoe over there, for those who don't know what that means, you are basically stripping a woman of her agency and her identity. She becomes a thing at that point. She doesn't have a name, she doesn't have a personality. She's literally that one over there, which is bad enough by itself. You're saying that, like, you are that thing over there, and that alone is not okay. But what really kind of exacerbates the issue is that in addition to that, you tack on this thing where you assume that whatever that woman is doing is for you. You assume that it's for a man, that if you see a couple of girls having fun on social media and posting selfies or talking about sex or what have you, you assume that that's for you, that they're doing it for your approval. And what I really think is the core of the issue is that there are some guys out there who are upset because that's not the case at all. Like, if a woman decides to wear a tank top when she's streaming, it's because she wants to wear a tank top. It has nothing to do with you. And I think there are some guys out there who like all of these things in a vacuum until they find out that it's not for them. And so when they see a bunch of women having fun, talking about sex, wearing tank tops, and then the girl says, oh, this isn't for you. I'm playing this game because I want to play it, and I'm wearing this because I want to wear it, and I'm posting that selfie for me, that's where I think some guys start to have a problem with it, and then they start to turn it around, and then they start to say, well, you're all just a bunch of thoughts, and you're all just trying to get a piece of this, when it's exactly the opposite. They're not doing anything for you. And I'm not really sure, like, how to get rid of that attitude, because it's very pervasive, and it's something we're seeing on a larger scale. Like, a lot of big YouTubers like PewDiePie are even chiming in on this and saying stupid things. And so I'm not really sure how we can sort of get that to stop, but it's something that's been happening on a much larger scale, this sort of opinion, and it's just very troubling on a number of levels. And I think that's why people were so upset about it, is because it's something we're seeing in other areas, and we were really hoping we wouldn't have to see it from any of our people, but eventually it did kind of creep in, and we were like, oh, come on, not you to, and that's why I think people were so upset.
Right, and again, I think Ben is a fine dude. I've met him and talked to him plenty of times at shows.
Yeah, he's a Vegas local like me. I see him every once in a while.
Yeah, I'm not like super pissed off at him. I was just like, hey man, you screwed up. Let's not screw up.
For me at least, it was like, can someone just come get their friend, please? Like,
right. It's not a big deal. I wasn't going out I wasn't, putting my guillotine together. I wasn't sharpening my pitchfork. Like, it was just like, man, that's stupid. And then it exploded. Like, I had no idea it was going to do that. And, a lot of the commentary, even in our chat, is like, I've never heard that word before. Well, guess what? Don't use it if you don't know.
And that was the core of the issue. Is when he did finally wake up, he was like, I didn't know what it meant, and I was like, why would you use a word that like all the kids are starting to use this yeet word now? So I don't know what that means, and so I'm not
about that as well. Yesterday,
it just means yes.
It just means yes. It's an exclamation of excitement. It's a verbalization of an exclamation point, as far as I can tell. That's what yeet means.
Right, but I wouldn't use a word. I wouldn't use it.
I wouldn't use it either. Yeah.
No, and so it was just fascinating to me that you would fire off this thing not even knowing what it means. It was like, really? Like
yeah. Definitely. Yeah, you need to make sure that the chamber isn't loaded when you fire off a tweet like this.
Yeah, and to his defense, the apology was good. There was definitely no doubling down.
Absolutely.
We don't expect you to be perfect. We just expect you to try.
And the thing that I really liked was not only was the apology good, but the responses in those apology threads when people were still like, how dare you apologize and stay on Twitter and like continue to be a part. And he was just like, look, I don't know what else I can do here. I'm leaving the tweet up, which I think was a great idea. He actually had a sincere apology. I thought if you're gonna be in this position where you've dug this hole, the first thing you have to do is put the shovel down.
Yeah.
And he did, and that was great.
And it's funny that we even have to commend somebody for doing that, but the track record on this is insane. The typical response, and we've certainly talked about this on the show before, #pros behaving badly, they always double down. And this was one of the few instances where we're commending him because it's so rare. It's so rare that somebody sits on their hands like, I'm going to listen now, because 9 times out of 10, we've talked about it with Bob's Dugout. We've talked about it with, certain other streamers and things of that nature. They can't help themselves. And so this was one of the rare instances where it was sincere, he listened, and that's awesome.
Man, I forgot about Bob's Dugout.
That was a year ago. Facebook reminded me that was a year ago.
That makes me, it just brings a smile to my face just to think about. It's like, oh man. Yeah, that's a good one. But yeah, this is just a good general rule for everybody, is if you don't know the history of a word, this is a word that has another epithet in it. Ho isn't exactly something somebody wants to be called. No. So
it's a teacher moment. It's one of those things, and again, that's the way I tried to see it. It's weird. Someone's just like, you're like the MTG dad, and I'm like, oh man, I feel like the MTG dad. That's weird.
Sometimes you need to be.
Ruben gets more camera time than I do.
Yeah.
His lighting is.
Go to your room, Ruben.
I'm his favorites.
I don't know what's happening.
For me, I wanted to be clear, and and if to take it for what it's worth.
We did have fun with it towards the end there. We were coming up with all sorts of, I came up with Golgari Thought Farm.
Yep.
And then someone came up with Thought Not Seer, and then we just went through Gatherer, Thought Vessel. Thoughtcast and Thought Courier, and it was like they're Trigon of Thoughts.
I briefly considered responding to Ben's comment with, it's the thought that counts. Which I didn't end up doing because that would be very poor taste. But I responded to Aaron's tweet. It's just to have it out there because I wanted it known that was a thing that we were having fun with it by the end. Everyone was in on the joke by the end of it, and so it was.
Thought Soup is what I came up with.
By the end of this first pick, by the end of this firestorm that happened today, there was no animosity left.
It didn't even make it to Reddit either, so that's a good sign. It stayed pretty contained.
Yeah. So,
right. We didn't even touch on P. Sully next leveling him.
P. Sully with the headshot, the absolute just, and it's down.
If you follow if you don't follow any Magic related person on Twitter, the only person that you need to follow is @BasicMountain. That's the only one. You don't have to follow anyone else because everything he tweets is pure gold.
It's pure gold. The man is a ninja, actual social media ninja. I've never seen.
I was in the middle of my training class because I'm training for a new job, and I was in a room with like 16 other people, and we were all studying. And when I saw that, I was looking at my phone, and I went, "Bitch!" And people were like,
"You just shouted that in the middle of your."
I did, and I was like, "Yeah,
class.
You had to be there." So
that's awesome.
All right, so let's move on to what I would describe as funner things, or more fun, or whatever that's supposed to be. Funnest, yeah. M19. Now, look, this is something I have absolutely come down on Wizards upon before, particularly and most notably in Masters 25, is that you don't end your spoiler season with poop. Okay, you don't. That's not where you put the poop. Put the poop in the middle. You have a poop sandwich. Okay, you put the awesome stuff at the beginning. You put the awesome stuff at the end, and that way you have a spoiler season that ends on a high note. And by God, we got it.
We did.
Tezzeret is sick. Tezzeret, Artifice Master, is 2 blue, 3 generic mana for a 5 loyalty planeswalker. It has +1, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. 0: draw a card. If you control 3 or more artifacts, draw 2 cards instead. That's fantastic. -9, you get an emblem with, at the beginning of your end step, search your library for a permanent card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle your library. This is him literally becoming this portal that takes things and puts them wherever he wants them, essentially. The big portal from Kaladesh or whatever. But this card is fantastic. 0: draw some cards. Yes, please. Makes its own blockers that turns on the second ability. Yes, please. This card is great.
I want to go back to that for a second. Where did Bridge go?
That's the planar bridge, right? Like he absorbed or something. Like it's in his body now.
Bridges are big. Like how?
It's magic. I don't know.
Is it like a magician's handkerchief where it just like folds it into him? Like what are we dealing with here?
This is the people who are like, how are they going to get the X-Men in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? I'm like, they just make it up. It doesn't matter.
Fine.
Who cares?
You shrunk it down. Like what was that Men in Black 2 where the universe was shrunk down into a little cat's bell?
And I don't know if you're younger than I am, so you might not know what this is, but do you remember the old Zelda cartoons?
Oh yeah.
Okay, and do you remember how Link's inventory would like shrink into like little charms, and they put them in his pouch, and then they grow? Maybe that's. Shout out to old school Zelda. That was when it was Zelda and Mario together on the Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah, if you're playing Skyrim and you've got like 350 pounds worth of bread and 16 wheels of cheese in your backpack. You can walk around and shrink them down, just like the planar bridge. That's science, right?
What's the thing he kept saying? Like something like,
also, this is the part of the story where it breaks down for you. Like, this is where, nope, I can't do it. We can replace our arms with Ethereum magic metals and be able to change existences and go through the universe. But the fact that I can't imagine a large metal object being inside of a human being, that's where it breaks down for me.
Pharmacist judge for the save. Excuse me, princess. Yes. Oh, my God. Oh. Yeah. Yep. The Nintendo serial system, if you will. From back in the day. But Tezzeret, again, we're ending on high notes. These are high notes. This is awesome. I love this. We didn't really talk, I don't think, last week much about Resplendent Angel, which was, I believe, SCG spoiler this go-around.
Yeah.
2 white and generic mana for a 3/3 mythic angel. It has flying. At the beginning of each end step, if you gain 5 or more life this turn, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance. And it has 3 white, 3 generic mana : until end of turn, it gets +2/+2 and gains lifelink. So for 6 mana, you turn it into a 5/5 lifelinker, which at the beginning of the end step will give you a 4/4 angel with flying and vigilance. That is... That's an army in a can right there. Good early, good late. That's already a good Magic card. Like once you're in that territory, this card is real.
Good amount of lifelink in the set too. Even just for limited, it shouldn't be hard to. With the right cards, it shouldn't be hard to get this thing going.
Yeah, and I agree. There's they call me Steve in the chat here saying essentially this thing's going to run standard or be terrible.
Yeah.
There's not really a lot of middle ground. It's like it's unplayable or it's going to be the best thing you're doing on turn 3 in standard.
Yeah, I'm hedging towards unplayable because there's just so many ways to deal with it efficiently. Mm-hmm. Like it's a 3/3 that doesn't do anything the turn that comes into play with 3 toughness, and it's not legendary. So Cast Down deals with it, Abrade deals with it. Harness Lightning deals with it. Lightning Strike deals with it. Let alone stuff like Chandra. It immediately gets outclassed in the air by Heart of Kiran, which is one of the hardest
Glorybringer
cards in Standard. Glorybringer is going to be a problem. So, I mean, it's the kind of card that I can foresee a person top 8ing the Pro Tour with, and then it never top 8s another event, right? Like, that's the kind of card this feels like. Where Craig Wesco makes a run deep in the Pro Tour, and then it just never does anything ever again.
Craig Wesco. Yeah, this to me feels like a card that might get better after rotation. I think there's just too many things that are out right now that it doesn't compete with, but if some of those cards that we've mentioned are no longer here, it might open up a spot for it.
It certainly has the stats, I think, to do very well. I'm a believer that this might take a while, but I think it can get there. The idea that you can turn it into 5 toughness is very important. Protects it against Chandra, protects it against Glorybringer. Like, once you have the shields up, that card is going to be very difficult to, I think, get through.
Yeah.
But we'll see. And the last one, at least on my sort of short list, and this was something that they revealed a lot of the final M19 cards on the Magic's sort of TV show, the Magic's Twitch show.
Right.
And Play Design member Paul Cheon was there. And I feel like people just kind of passed over the fact that he was like, there's this really good card, and it's called Leonin Warleader, and it's awesome. And I'm like, wow, that card is awesome. It is 2 white, 2 generic mana for a 4/4 rare cat soldier. Whenever Leonin Warleader attacks, create 2 1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink that are tapped and attacking. That is 6 power, 6 toughness, 2 of it has lifelink. Coming at you on turn 5, this thing, or turn 3 if you can get it out earlier. This thing is sweet. This card is great. This card's an army in a can.
This card is
big time.
Is well above the curve for what white usually gets. I think that all of that token hate that we were seeing might be in specific reference to this card, because this is Hero of Bladehold 2.0, slightly worse, which still makes it like the best 4-mana white creature they've printed in a long time.
Yeah.
You've still got Regal Caracal in Standard. You've got Crested Sunmare as another way to take advantage of these lifelinking cats.
Yeah, this thing.
Yeah, Regal Caracal is a card I use in the sideboard of my approach decks, because typically people will board out all of their removal against you, and sometimes just slamming 5 power worth of cats just gets you there. And so this kind of reminds me of a very similar strategy. If you take out all of your removal, and then the sideboard decks board into this, and then you sort of have that army in a can that they just can't deal with.
I appreciate Draco Goes Meow. It adds great new cards to Meow Mix.
Yeah.
If we still had silly deck names, that would be the silly deck name of the cat
Meow
deck.
Mix with Pride Sovereign and all the Johnny's Pride Mate and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, big go wide strategy. I think there's still a big go wide strategy that people haven't just found yet and haven't figured it out.
Yeah, probably.
And
I mean, we've got the Anointed Procession, Embalm strategy that's been floating around a little bit. But with Chain Whirler, there's a bunch of ways to give -1/-1 to stuff now, including the new Black Horse, the Pale Horse. Mm-hmm. I think that this might be the card that they were specifically talking about.
Oh, man. So up next is Liliana's Contract. And this card they gave to Chapin and Flores. And I think, for good reason. Because this card is bananas. This card is great. It's 2 black, 3 generic mana for a rare enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you draw 4 cards, and you lose 4 life. Let's go back one more time. 5 mana, draw 4, lose 4. I really don't care what else this thing says. I don't really care. But it also says, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 4 or more demons with different names, you win the game.
Yeah, this is very flavorful, and some people have noticed that you'll see 4 demons in the background of the art there, which signifies Bells and Lock, Coptifed, Grizzlebrand, and Razakath. Yeah.
Razakath, yeah.
And I love that they gave the same artist, Bastion Daharme, they gave the same artist who had the Liliana Planeswalker, they gave him this card as well. So you can see that she's very consistent between the 2 pieces. And this is the story moment where she goes from being sort of the older woman into the younger version we know now. And the card is just beautiful. I love the flavor of it, the idea that if you control 4 of these demons, you win the game, essentially her kind of, owning her contract, if you will. And I really love this. The fact that it's an enchantment means, of course, that it can be bounced and manipulated and things of that nature, so you can do it again and again if you wanted to. Kind of reminds me of Demonic Pact a little bit, which is also a Liliana flavored card, and I love this. I would love to find a way to use this in some capacity. And the flavor text is just immortality is worth any price. Like, oh, that's such a black color pie thing to say. I love it.
Black doesn't get tidings all the time, and that's a huge deal. 5 mana draw 4 in mono black. Also, Arcane Adaptation, as chat noted. Not our favorite Arcane Adaptation combo from the set, as we have Liliana to go infinite with our zombie naming Arcane Adaptation, and then play a bunch of Walking Ballistas with a Metallic Mimic in play. That's the infinite combo I want. But if you want to go and name demons with this card, that's pretty good too. Yeah, definitely a really cool card. I think that it's probably playable even with no other synergies in the deck.
Like the Arcane
if there's like a black
Adaptation,
control deck.
right? The Arcane Adaptation Liliana's contract just feels like the ultimate tier 3.5.
Oh
like,
yeah, no, that's horrendous garbage.
That's the kind of thing that you see, like we talked about in our last top 10, Ruben. Those sweet 3 months when you have like the giant card pool in standard.
Yeah.
That seems like their prime time for something like that, where it's like, all right, you guys have 3 months. Go nuts.
Absolutely. Yeah. Also, most demons cost 1 billion mana, so you definitely need to play the adaptation so that you can turn your 1 mana 2/1s into demons to try to trigger this thing. But even regardless of that, this is just draw 4, lose 4 for 5 mana. Probably good enough in a mono black control shell if that is a strategy that is playable and where you want to be.
Or Black X, just period. I think again.
Or Black X, sure.
This is very powerful card draw. Very, very powerful.
Blue has a lot of great ways to draw cards. Hello, Tezzeret.
Sure.
Already in standard at 5 mana. Right. So this would be in sort of a black-green shell, maybe a black-white, something along those lines.
Sure. Black-red sort of suicide almost strategy.
Sure.
In some way. But regardless, this next one is super fun. Goblin Trashmaster.
Yes. I'm
Ruben,
so happy.
We have the Trashmaster.
Yes. Well, we've
had him on the show for a while.
I know. They just printed my invitational card. I don't know why it took them so long.
I love you, Ruben.
I acknowledge that I am trash.
The likeness is uncanny. No, go ahead and tell what the card does.
So Goblin Trashmaster is 2 colorless red for 3/3 Goblin Warrior. It's a rare in M19, so it's a 4 mana 3/3. So you got your Hill Giant stats. Other goblins you control get +1/+1, and sacrifice a goblin, destroy target artifact. This is a huge deal, I think. I mean, it's another Goblin Lord. For standard, this is I think the best Goblin Lord because you're playing War Chief on 3. If you're trying to curve out, so having a bigger body on the back end is good. This lets you deal with a lot of problem permanents, not just in standard. Honestly, I think that this might have more of an impact on the modern goblins list because that deck has been picking up in popularity. It recently won a Magic Online event, and being able to deal with artifacts in that format is a much bigger deal than having to deal with it in standard, although it is a good stopgap solution against opposing metallic mimics, God Pharaoh's gifts, what have you.
Heart of Kieran.
Heart of Kieran, absolutely. I just think this card's great. Being a lord that is also main deckable artifact removal. Very similar to how we discussed about how Vivien is a card that you're happy to main deck anyway, and oh, by the way, it lets you destroy problem permanents that you typically wouldn't get to. Trashmaster does exactly that. I think it's a great card.
Yeah.
And the last one, I don't have it here to pull up, but Stitcher Supplier is a fantastic card, just made for the Aaron Campbells of the world, and made for this zombie deck that I think is absolutely real. It is 1 black for a 1/1. When it enters the battlefield or dies, put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. Chain Whirler it. I don't care. You're just going to put more zombies in there that have activated abilities in their graveyard, and I'm going to put them into play.
Blessed be the fruit. Yeah, when I saw this, I was just like, oh man. And so, yeah, there's been a lot of talk about this in the Dredge Discord specifically. With Modern, the only concern is that we really need green for Life from the Loam because Modern Dredge really leans on Life from the Loam pretty hard. And so there are, depending on the meta, this might be good. Like if your meta is very aggressive with like Zoo decks and Burn, and you have ways to kill this, you can really get the value out of it. But cards like this are actually not bad. They're up there with the Shriek Horns in that they allow you to keep hands you wouldn't wouldn't normally be able to keep because you didn't have any dredgers. But if you're playing something like Shriekhorn or Supplier, you're very likely to be able to mill yourself into one if you don't already have one. And so there's a lot of discussion about this. I know in Legacy it's competing with Putrid Imp, but even then you still have to have a dredger in your hand. And so this lets you keep hands you otherwise might not be able to. I don't think it's good enough for Vintage, certainly, but I think there's definitely room for it in Standard. And I think there's room for it to be tested in Modern and Legacy. But I'm so excited about this card. And the art of just this zombie, kind of dismissing this head and saying no part goes to waste. Anybody who plays a deck involving, zombies or even reanimation, you understand how to use all parts of the buffalo. And that's, again, just a flavorful quote on a card like that.
I mean, you're going to see
Speaking of memes, it seems that the most popular meme is to comment on every spoiled card. Oh, Dredge gets a new toy, or this is the death of Tron. Which got really tilting when I was trying to read through all of the spoiler discussion of just like every other comment trying to do that meme.
Oh, believe
which I
me.
guess it's part of what makes memes funny, I guess, but I'm over it.
I mean, I haven't been tagged in anything, thank God. Like typically whenever someone sees the word graveyard, I get tagged in it, even the bad things. But yeah, I haven't really been tagged in too much nonsense. But people have been loving tagging me in the hate cards though. They're like, Aaron, look at this cleric. Aaron, look at this merfolk. And I'm like, I don't know her. I don't.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm going to touch base a little bit on something I think that is being incredibly overlooked right now, which is Vivien Reid is amazing. Y'all don't even understand how good this green card is. It's a card advantage. It deals with a ton of problematic types. It deals with stuff like the new Nicol Bolas by default. Like, she is a BA. This card is exactly what green decks were looking for. +1 card advantage, -3 kill something that's going to hurt you, and whatever the ever emblem is, who cares? Because
I mean, the
first two
emblem
abilities are insane.
The emblem is relevant in that it isn't, not every Planeswalker emblem ends the game by itself. This one, while it won't end the game by itself, Vivien is already filling up your hand with +1 creatures in your hand. And -3 kill a Glorybringer or Nicol Bolas is no joke. I think that this card is, a 5-mana Karn, which still makes it good.
She's fine. I still will always think of her as the Steve Irwin of Magic, but just because of her flavor text, like crikey, look at those dinosaur teeth.
Yeah, all of those flavor texts were.
Yeah,
she's basically David Attenborough. Like, today we're taking a look at this delicious Gigantosaurus. Yeah, just very strange.
Oh man,
so sweet. But ultimately, M19 I think turned out to be a really sweet core set.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
I was very impressed with Wizards' play design, figuring out how to juice this set up with value without breaking Standard. I mean, you've got cards like Omniscience and Scapeshift and Crucible of Worlds and Nexus of Fate, which are going to be not just the Nexus of Fate's not a reprint, although Beacon of Tomorrow's existed, but lots of these good, solid reprints for older formats that aren't going to really have any impact on Standard. Death Baron is the only one that they've reprinted that's probably going to have a bit of an impact on Standard that had a big price tag, but they even made a promo of that one. So I was just very impressed how they were able to combine all of this, all of these rares and mythics to give good value in the set as well.
Yeah, I really like the set. I've been a fan of core sets for a while. I was one of the people who was sad to see them go. I'm very happy that they're back. I can't wait to pre-release this, and I'm not a sealed girl, but I will absolutely come out for this pre-release, and it looks like a lot of fun. I'm very excited about the set.
Yeah, and for those who are curious sort of on the sales side, how it's doing, it's doing fine. It's doing about as well as Rivals was doing.
As a core set? Oh,
okay.
Which, so to have a small set, again, small sets doesn't sell as well as the big set. At least, we're going that will go away eventually anyway. But, right now, small sets don't sell as well as the big sets. Core sets never sell as well as the big sets either. So to be on par with something like that is a good thing, is a very good thing. And the singles are great. So
a little strange, actually, that we're going to have a Pro Tour without a core set limited piece, if I'm understanding the schedule correctly. Yeah.
You know why? It's because we're the best limited sets in the history of the game.
Because it's the best limited set ever. But I understand that the core set's amazing, or that Dominaria Limited is amazing. But just because it's so doesn't necessarily mean you get an encore. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny to me. It's one of those things that's like Wizards is like, I don't want to let go. I don't want to let go of Dominaria. Just stay right here. Just stay right here. You beautiful set. You're so good. They just can't handle it.
There have been a couple comments in the chat, so I will address Goreclaw, the legendary bear.
Uh-oh.
Real quick, I will address Goreclaw. I don't think it's good. It's a 4-mana creature that doesn't do anything the turn you play it, that dies to Upraid. So there's that.
And it doesn't even do anything for bears.
Doesn't do anything for bears.
The bear thing and the bears on Tarkir or whatever. It's just
although
like,
it does
looks
combo
kinda wonky.
hilariously with like all the Eldrazi creatures. I think that those are like 2-mana Thought-Knot Seers and things in Modern is interesting. Free Mirror Superions, like that is something worth at least looking at. But again, I don't see it for it.
Dix is on it. He's like, it's a Tarkir bear. It means it's 4 power. You just shut your mouth. Like,
You got it. You got
to
the
me,
ferocious trigger.
This is a brawl creature. This is an EDH creature. This is something for the casuals to have for their bear decks or whatever, and that's cool.
I don't know why Dix is excited about it, because you can't put Goreclaw in Infact. I mean,
Right, there you go.
Wow.
I mean, you can. It just isn't good.
Just doesn't do what you want to do.
I mean, Infact isn't very good either.
Nicol Bolas, the Ravager, is still the most expensive card from the set. It is a definite 2-for-1 no matter what happens, and it is very, very powerful. So we'll see if it can actually get there. All right, so let's move on here. Ruben, we can get to your conspiracy later if we have
That's fine. I've discussed it on the pre-show. It's fine. Don't worry about
it.
It's
a little silly. That said, Tolarian Community College this week announced and showed via screenshot that it has surpassed the official Magic the Gathering YouTube channel with 338,000?
Yep.
338,000 for theirs versus 33.6 for Magic the Gathering, and that is an incredible achievement. Congratulations to the prof and the crew for doing amazing work there.
Well done.
I mean, that takes a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of dedication. Trust me, I know. And also, he reviewed the Global Series, in which
boy.
He, I mean, you know, I ain't gonna complain. He mirrored a lot of what I was complaining about last week, and then complaining about in Vegas and all this other stuff. Was that for no good reason you had to make it weird, Wizards, for no good reason. And now I'm even hearing, and he tweeted this himself, that you don't get the foil doggo token in the Chinese version.
What?
And I'm like, you don't give him the full you can't. It's the doggo. It's one of the coolest parts of the thing. So this is, and I'm going to go ahead and make a weird prediction here. First of all, it's a bad product. It's a bad product because A, they did stupid things like make it only legal in China, which is dumb. 2, they tried to tell you as clearly as possible that this thing was like absolutely going to do nothing in any constructed format, but you can't play it in any constructed format you want for reasons. That's still dumb.
Yeah.
But here's what I'm saying. It's not. I don't think it's going to do very well sales wise. And spoiler alert, it's not really blowing up, you know, the sales anyway as of right now.
Right.
And
It's also so the foil token and the foil planeswalkers aren't in the Chinese versions, which is bizarre.
I do have to apologize for something. I got my facts a little screwed up when we were in GP Vegas for the live show. I had mentioned that there was a card that had flavor text of a dog being kicked to get the moon back. The card itself does not say that. If you look up the lore, Wikipedia, if you look up the lore of the dog eating the moon or catching the moon, the Wikipedia entry is what said you had to kick the dog to get the moon back. So I apologize. YouTube was very gracious as to nicely calling me out for getting my flavor text wrong. And
apology accepted.
Right.
Thank you. So.
Either way, this to me, I think the prediction is that I don't think it's going to do very well. Like now in the near future, it's going to sell poorly. It's going to eventually sell through, as all products eventually do anyway. And then, looking back, some of those artworks are absolutely gorgeous, and that's the only way you can get them.
So let me ask you this though.
So
was it worth it? Like, we're talking about how it may not do so hot, but the goal was to sort of appeal to the Chinese market. Like, do you think it's doing that? Like, do you think it's working? Like, can we call this a win? Can we?
It's unknown at this point. I think that there's a lot of variables at play that I just don't know enough about the Chinese market to know. The important factor to keep in mind is the folks watching this show and the folks that we encounter daily are the vast minority of Magic players. Mm-hmm. Most Magic players don't even know the Pro Tour exists. They buy their packs and they build them at home and they play on the kitchen table with their friends or in their college dorm rooms. And for that, when you have a power, you don't have a power level comparison to say this is worse than all of these other cards, then it seems fine. I do think that there was it got lost in translation was what I was going to say, but that's not the right phraseology here. It got lost. Something got lost when they were making this, in that they watered it down too much. Prof had a great recap on this, that this is an A+ in flavor and art and an F in execution in terms of playability and fun. And so overall, he graded the product a C, which I think is fair. And so when you go out, and I thought this quote from the Prof was great, when you strive for mediocrity, you just might get it.
Whoa.
They did, and they were so clear about it. They're just like, seriously, this is going to do nothing anywhere.
Why
Enjoy
would you do
it.
that? I don't.
And you can't even play it. I can buy it in Walmart, and I cannot play it in Standard. That's so stupid. It's right up there with Storm and Walmart. I'm telling you, this is Storm and Walmart stupid. This whole only Standard in China thing.
I'll add it to the Mikesies. We're going.
It's worth it. If this whole
Storm and Walmart was brilliant.
What are we doing? We're
not
doing
to mention they're
hashtag, no, this is not hashtag of the year. This is dumbest WotC move. Moo. What's this product called?
Global Series. It's the Global Series
Series.
decks.
All right.
Only being legal in China, they had to make it political. Had to make it weird.
I mean, I want other Global Series stuff. Like, I saw some great tweets today of like luchador themed Mexico Global Series would be amazing. I mean, they did the James vs. Chandra anime art thing back in the day. I think stuff like that is great.
And then they never did it again.
Well,
because that wouldn't have been a good idea. As again, I think some of these artworks are going to be very sought after. I think this can be a very expensive product after it initially fails.
For sure.
So that's just one of those things. That said, Jeff Hoagland announced on his blog this week that he wants to coordinate some Magic stream hosting, that he has been doing very, very well for himself, both in subscriber count and doing some awesome streams. And he's willing to help those, willing to coordinate hosting his channel at the end of his normal streams. And I thought that was absolutely fantastic and something to call out. Jeff's had an interesting ride over the past 5 to 7 years worth of community involvement. And it's nice to see this kind of side come out of him.
Yeah, I love this for a couple of reasons. One, I love the idea of, if you're successful, you should bring people up with you. And we've seen this with the professor, sort of taking certain people under his wing, like Emma and Ashlyn Rose, and giving them more of an audience. And that's what you're supposed to do, on the come up. You're supposed to bring people with you. And so Jeff is saying, I have all of this, I have all of these viewers, I have all of these sponsors. Let's kind of share the wealth a little bit. Let's get other people involved in that too. And I think that's great. But more importantly, a lot of people, myself included, didn't really know what hosting was. Like when I first started streaming, I had friends who were streamers, and I would set up my auto hosts, and I was like, oh, it just means that they'll be able to like come see them if I'm not online. But I didn't know that hosting is best when you yourself are done streaming, that when you're wrapping up your stream, you should ideally be sending people to another stream. I didn't know that. And so I think this might be good for people like me who are maybe newer streamers that don't really know how hosting works or don't really know what to do with it. And here's somebody who can sort of show you like, okay, I'm going to get done. You do it this way. You can sort of pick somebody else and really get the most out of that feature, because I feel like a lot of streamers aren't doing the most with their hosting.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of this initiative. Again, he's put in the work to figure out how to do it. And we've had our fun with Hoogland here on this show in the past, and I think that overall he is a net good for the community by a wide margin, and this is just another big piece of that. And I think that this is a great idea, and I hope that it succeeds. And I'm thankful that Jeff took the initiative to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So moving on here, Alison Luhrs, friend of the show,
Queen.
Yes, Queen. Had tweeted, "Hey, look, I'm
not young enough or have kids young enough to.
I have teenagers, and it's all they say anymore. Everything is a queen. Such queens. We're Twitch queens. It's great. Okay, but Alison herself, Queen herself, said that the cat's out of the bag. She's been working on some digital narrative design on the DL for the past few months. Ixalanifying Jace was a task that she really enjoyed. So let her know what lines you discover, as she wrote most of the Planeswalker dialogue in Arena.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I had reached out to her for clarification because I didn't really understand the difference between story and narrative. And if I understand it correctly, I'm still not 100% clear, I believe that narrative is more of the broader sense, like you're doing a lot more world building, a lot of general brushstrokes, whereas story is more like character, personal, building, personal storylines and development and things like that. And so Alison's proven that there's really nothing she can't do. Any department they put her in, she seems to slay. She's a great person. She's a great person to follow on Twitter. A surprisingly good rapper. I'll never forget being on the Ride the Ducks with her, and she knew all the words to the Macklemore song, which was great. And she's just a wonderful human being, and I just wish her all the success in the world. There just seems to be no stopping her.
Yeah,
I tend to when I'm working on either a short story or a D&D project, I tend to be, like you said, the separation there. I tend to be better with the characters than I am with the overall worldview. And so, for example, with Board the Weatherlight, I worked with A.E. Marling, who does flavor texts and lots of lore. He's on Loregoyfs. And I find that sort of partnership really helpful. And so that sort of division of labor is absolutely relevant to my interests. And the fact that Alison is still working in some capacity, in some way, on the story, on the narrative, warms my heart.
Absolutely. And I mean, to me, I played a lot of Arena. I definitely played the Red-Black Pirates deck, so I just keep hearing Angrath, saying, no fire, no steel. And I was like, oh, cool, she wrote that, because I've heard it like 100 times whenever you activate his first ability.
Great.
Awesome. So we got to draft Beta in Vegas. So let's draft Unlimited in Singapore.
Ooh.
Because they did. And
what did they open? I didn't catch that.
They seem to open some decent stuff, as I recall. Here they have.
They did okay. Yeah, it was not nearly as exciting as the cards opened in Vegas.
Aww.
Also, partially because they were beta. But even if these were the same set, right. Not nearly as much excitement and verve here with these cards. There was a dual land open. I think everybody was cheering. I think it was like pack 10 or 11, maybe even later, where
they eventually got one.
That they got a scrubland, I think.
They did open a Mox Jet.
Okay, they got
good,
a jet.
Good.
All right, good.
Opened a Mox Jet, which is terrific. And stuff
I also liked
Force Field.
Before the draft started, Kevin Dupre had to explain how Chaos Orb worked, which was great. And so, just a really fun, interesting, exciting, cool thing. These celebratory Magic drafts, I just love them.
Yeah, I happen to be following Gavin Verhey and Ashlyn Rose. They were both at GP Singapore as special guests, and they were live tweeting the entire weekend. And so it was great to see the sites and the food and the people and just how much Singapore really loves Magic.
Oh, yeah. And it was really fun. Just, again, we're opening up crazy old packs, sometimes with 5 lands in them.
Yeah.
Which happens multiple times. It's
not good.
It was a different time. It was a different era. You couldn't find lands. You literally could not find lands anywhere. So you just had to get them in the packs. So we'll move here to Desperate Ravings Channel Fireball this week. Andrea Mengucci, quite a fine mage himself, decided to write an article going like, hey, things are different now. We don't have the ability to just kind of like, surprise, I'm going to win the Pro Tour. It's like, no, you're not. You're going to have to chill. You're going to need to focus on your draft. You got to get that limited game down. The difference between the top 8ers and the not top 8ers, the constructed masters that you never see in those top 8s, is that their drafting game is just never up to snuff. And he's like, look, standard, whatever. Use your standard, focus on your good standard decks. Don't be all cute and build your deck the day before the submission or whatever, because you're not going to do well with it, as he mentions himself. As he tried to, get all brewy during PT Amonkhet. He's like, focus on your draft. You focus on your standard deck, yes, but you focused on that draft because you got to get that limited game strong, because that's what really separates who wins and who doesn't, is who can do well in those limited rounds.
Yeah. Absolutely. I thought that this article was fabulous. It was just it was condensed it was, pound for pound, one of the more interesting theory articles on Magic culture, the zeitgeist of the professional scene I've read in a while. I was very impressed with his insights here, and he's right. You can't break the format anymore. It's not a thing you can do. There's too much information. There's too much time between set release and tournament. Paul Rietzel tweeted it out. He was like, "Man, I wish that we had 24 hours with the spoiler and then had to turn in a deck list." I thought that was a great idea. But that's not the world anymore.
I mean, I think the advice was sound. I like that he hit on the fact about that you should spend more time on seals. I don't think not enough players do, but it made me sad to read about the standard portion, because I'm the girl that I used to like tuning in for the crazy brews. I used to tune in for the Adrian Sullivans and the Conley Woods, and I used to want to see when they would give them the deck tack and just seeing the wild cards that they had brought to the table. And we still have that a little bit. And I remember when Reed had the Seasons Past deck tack, and when Willie showed up with the mono black deck that was technically Jund. And so there's moments like that, but I used to watch the Pro Tour for the crazy brews and for the chance that they would break the format. And I get a little bored when I see just decks I've already seen before. When a bunch of Hall of Famers get a house together and they all agree to play mono red, I kind of die a little inside. Not because it's just mono red, but I want to see what those minds can do. Hopefully there's a Sam Black there or something. So I understand that it might be sound advice, but me as a viewer, I'm a little bummed. I want to see the crazy brews.
I think we want to, but it's one of those things that they kind of have to in order to be consistent.
Yeah.
I trust me. I would love to see Crack Fetch Take Two of Conley Woods every single PT. It's ridiculous that it's one of those. That's one of those that in particular, because I was there in Rome when he did this. His opponent mulled to 4 and was playing mono red, and he decided to keep bolting himself with his shocklands until his mono red player literally drew perfect and killed him out of nowhere, and it was amazing. And stuff like that happens when people can get creative.
Yeah.
So speaking of things that are weird now. There's an $8 card in Homelands now. It's a wall. Its wall of kelp is $8.25.
Why?
It's
thanks Arcades.
Thanks reserved list. Reserved list did this. Arcades started it. The reserve list finished it. That's how we have an $8 card in Homelands for no good reason. For those who don't know and probably won't improve themselves by knowing, Wall of Kelp is 2 blue for a 0/3 wall, 2 blue tap : put a kelp token creature into play. Treat this token as a 0/1 blue wall. It creates some kelp tokens.
Wow.
From Homelands.
It's a plant wall now, to be fair.
That's crazy. You know what else has spiked recently is Firestorm. Firestorm is usually a 4 of in dredge sideboards. That's now a $20 card from Weatherlight. That was $10 last time. It was $10 right around the time I left for GP Vegas. And now it's $20, which is insane.
I mean, it's
MTG
jumped up there.
Fine ants.
Ugh.
Oh, the finest of ants. Because, and again, we're just going to have these stories. These stories are not going to slow down. In fact, I think these stories are going to speed up. Something went from X to Y in,
for sure,
this amount of time. It's just going to be a thing that we talk about over and over again. And stupid stuff like Homelands now has an $8 card in it. Forever. For 15 years, you could buy a box of Homelands for the same price as 1996 as you could 2016 or whatever, and then eventually even things like Fallen Empires have bumped maybe $5 or $10 because
as noted in chat, Shield Sphere also took a jump this week.
Really?
If you look at that graph, went up to $10. I mean, it's going to happen to every reserve list card, every single one, 100% of the reserve list cards. So if it hasn't jumped yet, you can rest assured that it will happen.
Yeah, essentially, if you this is one of those weird, you can invest in Magic things where you're just find the cheapest reserve list garbage you can find, buy 1,000 of it, and we'll see you in 10 years. Whatever. Just put it in the closet, forget about it. One day you'll find your wall of kelps or whatever, and you'll be like, wow, this is incredible find. I've money now.
I spent too much time pulling things out of closets. I ain't going back in.
Heyo. Well, a interesting tidbit was dropped by Ethan Fleischer this week on Twitter.
I love him. He's so random.
He's great.
He is very random.
His brother also makes really cool music.
I saw him walking around GP Vegas with his vest and mustache combo. That's a hell of a human.
That stash is rocking it.
It is.
That's the stash. But again, his brother actually makes really interesting music. I can't remember exactly what his brother's name is. It's also Fleischer. And he just released something on Spotify, and it was really cool. It's almost like video game-esque type soundtrack music. Right. It was really sweet. It was electronic music. Anyway, the point is that someone had asked them, hey, why didn't you reprint Jazal Goldmane for, in M19? That's cool. That ties in with the Johnny yada yada. And he said, well, we considered it, but the play design team informed me that he's too strong for standard. For those who don't recall, Jazal Goldmane is 2 white, 2 generic mana for a 4/4 mythic legendary cat warrior from Commander. It has first strike, so 4 mana for a 4/4 first strike, and 2 white, 3 generic mana, attacking creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of attacking creatures. So next turn, he can be a 5/5 by himself. Obviously, you should have things already in play. Your creatures would be absolutely enormous really, really, really quickly. I can see how that one's a little too much.
You can see how this card... Wait, hold on. You can see how Jazal Goldmane would have been too good for standard.
Mm-hmm.
It did nothing last time.
Was it even? It was never in standard.
Oh, I guess it's never been in standard. It was reprinted from Commander. I apologize.
Right.
It's done. I mean, okay, sure.
This is why we have. Well, it's never.
This is why we have Valiant Knight in the set instead of Jazal Goldmane. Is we have this different 4 mana creature that does another thing for 5 mana during combat. Okay, sure. Really though, this 4 mana 4/4 legendary cat warrior with a 5 mana activated ability was that's crazy.
4 mana 4 for first strike. If you have 3 other creatures, you're attacking for 20 damage immediately on turn 5.
If I don't have a removal spell, then I deserve to lose. I guess
it dies to Doomblade. Yes, otherwise you die to it.
Yep,
that's how that one works.
I guess this one also doesn't die to Cast Down, Abrade, or Lightning Strike. So that's tough. The other 4/4 for 4 cat warrior that makes 2 other cat warriors. Definitely this would have been an overrun effect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. All right, fine.
Card's a little busted for a standard format, but it's fine. You go nuts in your Commander decks. Friend of the show, Seb McKinnon, has a Kickstarter that is running forever. It's running. The Kickstarter will be there when we have children and the children's children. I'll be a grandfather. This Kickstarter doesn't end. It's 29 days to go. Seriously. Next time. Lower that number a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a small bit. It's
Says
fine.
the man who makes our contest for 30 days.
Right. Good point.
But I go and fix it. It's fine. The point is, Seb's an awesome guy. He's a fantastic artist in a whole variety of ways, not just in the visual. But he has raised $92,000 as of right now, $92,808 as of this recording, to bring his playmats to life. I would also, speaking of bringing playmats to life, I would pay extra for no logos. I just want to make that clear. I would pay extra for no logo, and I mean no logos, nothing. No legalese, no Wizards of Up, no Ultra Pro, no Planeswalker symbol, nothing. I would pay extra for that. If there's a license fee I would have to give up, I will pay the license fee.
Yeah, 1,132 backers. Dirge of Dread was unlocked among some other fabulous choices. I still have no idea what I'm going to choose. I think there was another artist who just launched one the other day. I think it was Steve Belladin. There was another artist who came forward. I could be wrong, but also tweeted that they were doing a Kickstarter. And I love that the success of this Kickstarter and other Kickstarters has inspired other artists to do that. And I think this is great, and I think Seb deserves every penny.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that's perfect for this type of format, because everyone has their favorite art, and it's hard to figure out what your print run should be and how much you should charge for them and which arts you should include, and all that stuff can be sort of told to you by voting with your dollars and saying, these are the artworks that I want, this is the stuff that you're unlocking that I'm excited about, which is great. So again, Seb has a ways to go, but is certainly doing well so far.
My big thing that I love about this is the limited edition prints. which if you give an extra $35, you're able to get a limited edition print of one of the arts. The example he gave was Stasis, where if there's only 10 prints made, well, guess what? That's it. That's all of the Stasis prints that'll be available ever. And no logos.
There's no logos.
Yeah. A little bit of behind the scenes tea too. Seb had reached out to us privately and was looking for ways to, kind of get his name out there a little more, get the Kickstarter out there more, as if it wasn't successful enough already. And so he's very willing to go on other podcasts. He's very willing to be interviewed for websites. And so if you are a content creator who's watching our show and you're looking for a guest to have on, or you're looking for, just someone to collaborate with, Seb is very open to those possibilities, and you might want to contact him to make that happen.
Yeah.
Right, because we don't do guests.
Yeah, we've only had one in the history of the show.
It's true.
It is Hélène Bijou.
Hélène
Bijou.
It was terrific.
Miss her every day.
We need a Hélène back in the saddle.
We do. I still read things in her voice, especially organized play things, which I think we're about to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. You ever see that GIF of A Beautiful Mind and Russell Crowe, and there's the crazy mathematical things floating around? That is how the pro system works. No one understands it. Wizards, this is like the thing that you actually do better than most other gaming companies, is that your organized play is sweet and your organized play works, and you do a good job at that. But then once you get to those upper echelons, it just turns into who knows what is going on. You understand the tournament series up until the point where it really matters, and then it's just confetti. I don't even know what's going on anymore.
Yeah,
I mean, to be fair, you're once you go high enough up in the sky, you're working in physics that no one's worked in before. But this one in particular is really inexcusable.
Yeah.
Which is what we're talking about, is that Worlds qualifiers is a cutoff date on August 5th, meaning that some of the nationals, I think is how it works, will be involved, and some won't, depending on what country you live in.
We have to break it down a little further than that. So the pro points specifically that you can earn from nationals could help you qualify for Worlds. The problem with that is that not all of the nationals events are happening before Worlds. So if you happen to be living in an area that has a nationals before Worlds and you happen to do well, you will have a pro point advantage ahead of people who didn't even get a chance to play in their nationals, because theirs happened after Worlds. And so geography has been an issue with organized play for a while, in terms of how many RPTQs they get, do they even get GPs and invites and things like that. And this sort of exacerbates the issue of people now have a location advantage of, well, your nationals was before this and you got pro points that I couldn't get, and whether or not that should be okay. And I think this is going to be that way for a while. This isn't just this year. I think it's for a while. And a lot of confusion, and people are very not happy about it, as they should be.
I mean, you just have these poor pros that are just like, well, why is this way?
Right.
I don't understand. You
remember last week where we talked about the 114 random lost at sea pros still looking for teammates for the Team Pro Tour?
That is so sad.
And this is another weird, it stops being odd corner case scenarios when a odd corner case scenario pops up every week.
Yeah, my friend Autumn was one of those. She happened to be at an RPTQ recently, and her team unfortunately did not win. And then she was kind of trolling Twitter for, hey guys, English, so-and-so, I've done all these things. This is the format I'm good at. Looking for a team. And it was just, the mentions were just depressing, of the people saying, sorry, we already have a team. Sorry, we don't think we'd be a good fit. Sorry, we don't know anybody. And
escape room scavenger hunt.
Yeah, it's just so sad that that's what it's come to, that these pros, these people who have these accolades and who've worked so hard, are basically just, trolling alleyways for partners.
They're out back busking for spare change.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
I mean, there's the MTG Pro equivalent of Tinder. There's Winder. Swipe left to team with me. To go in, please.
You can swipe left, you can swipe right, or you can swipe up to intentionally draw.
Someone did that a while back. Somebody had made a tweet to that effect of looking for a team for good times. I only play standard. I'm looking for blah. And they worded it as if it was a dating profile, and it went kind of viral for a little bit.
Single mono white male looking for aggressive curves.
It just feels like if you put the line in the sand and you say Worlds qualifications, end here, you can't also say all the Nationals events have to happen before this. That's kind of the point. Is that Nationals leads to Worlds. That's the whole...
didn't line up the cutoffs is the problem. Like, this could have been avoided. The TOs obviously organize when Nationals are going to be occurring, but they set the cutoff date for when Nationals could occur after the Pro Tour, I guess. It's just a mess.
This is a classic, like, Wizards of the Coast, left hand, right hand.
Yeah.
Left hand went in and did whatever, and right hand's like, why did you do it that way? Now we have to, like, awkwardly explain this to everybody, and now it's just like, well, this is uncomfortable. Maybe we could fix it next year, and ideally this won't be a problem moving forward because you just schedule terms for the cutoff. It's fine. But yeah, it makes me sad. That said, I think it's time to choose a winner.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Cool.
For the set of challenge decks, one of each. What could, at least recently, been purchased for $79.99 on CoolStuff.com. But, that said, let's see. Mr. Christopher D. in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah.
Congratulations. You have won a set of 4 challenge decks. All 4 of them. The vehicles deck.
He won something before, too.
Did he? Well, fantastic.
What a lucky guy.
There you go. Christopher D. from Atlanta, GA. You go, buddy. You got free stuff.
Yay.
Thank you very much for hanging out with us, interacting with the show.
And he gets to live in Atlanta? Man, some guys have awful luck.
If he is who I think it is, you wouldn't know it because he doesn't know where anything is.
Oh, well,
wow.
Fair.
All right. Well, I've been to Atlanta.
Love you, Chris.
It's got a lot of traffic. It's got.
Oh, he won a D&D book before.
Yeah, I just remember meeting him at GP Atlanta, and I was like, "Hey, I'm looking for X kind of restaurant." And he's like, "Well, here's a Y restaurant," and I was like, "That's not
right
what I asked for." Like,
wow.
Yeah, well, when you win 2 contests on our stream, you're gonna have to take some Aaron Campbell sass with you. That'll come free of charge, friend.
That's a dollop of sass right there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. a dollop will do, as it were. So, congratulations, Christopher. Thanks very much, everyone, for participating, as usual. But we need to turn the corner to the finisher. This week's installment of Spellslingers features the Streamy-award winning actress Ashley Clements as Sean Day9 Plott's latest nerd friend, joining him for a game of Magic over on Geek and Sundry. And speaking of Day9, he joined his other nerd friends, Jimmy Wong, Lee Kwai, and award-winning voice actress Ashly Burch on the latest game nights. The Real Play Magic series featuring celebrities are amazing, but they're also relatively new, meaning there are plenty of Magic playing A, B, C, and D listers still out there to take part. So if you were the casting director in charge of casting casters, who would you like most to see on the next big show? Ruben?
Well, it's been tweeted before that Nathan Fillion of Castle and Firefly fame had an interest in MTG after seeing his good friend and co-star Alan Tudyk on Season 1 of Spellslingers. And I would definitely love to see him pilot an aggressive Azoria strategy, because burn the land and boil the sea. Can't take drafting blue-white skies from me.
oh man.
Wow. Aaron?
Oh, Brandon Ruth, who played Superman in 2006, but we don't really talk about that anymore, and Ray Palmer on Legends of Tomorrow is apparently a big Magic player using the hashtag green for the win in a response to a thread on his history with the game. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing him play Super Friends, because of course he would, and hopefully he and his deck will have those nice, tight double sleeves. Just hug.
Just a hugging.
Mm-hmm.
Just a hugging.
Yeah.
Well, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is one of Hollywood's biggest stars working today and also has a history with Magic the Gathering, having played often at Neutral Ground back in the day. He even expressed interest in being the film version of Jace Beleren, which absolutely grokks since he's a good-looking white dude who can definitely pull off the cowl, the brooding, and obviously that sweet, shirtless, cunning castaway look.
Mm.
Did you see what my friend did the other day? We were playing EDH and doubling season plus Jace's Castaway.
Oh boy.
That's
yeah.
Awesome.
That's infinite.
Oh my god.
Is that infinite?
Like, oh
That's
yeah.
Great.
That's infinite Planeswalkers.
Yeah.
Infinity Planeswalkers. Infinity
shirtless
It was
Jaces.
literally
I've had a
raining
dream
men.
like this before.
It was nuts.
Oh my goodness. Well, that ends another live episode of Magic Mics. Thank you for joining us here live to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you. I want to do a bet, Aaron. Do you think Evan can get through the outro as quickly as he got through the intro?
With no mistakes?
No mistakes.
No mistakes. We can do this.
I think he can.
Okay.
Thanks. Moving here to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, CardHoarder.com, my co-host, Aaron Campbell and Ruben Bressler, you guys for watching or listening. I hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. And I actually want to back up just a little bit and thank our subscriptions for this week.
Oh, there you go, yeah.
Thank you, Captain Booty 56. Thank you, Arcane Lore. Thank you, Crimson Anima, for resubscribing. Thank you, Argent Griever, for subscribing, which is terrific. Thank you, Jersey Bricklayer, for resubscribing for 3 months, which is awesome. House of Shadow for resubscribing for 2 months. J-Dubs 2008 for the bits. A Little Aloof has subscribed. Thank you very much for that. The Immortal Squee resubscribed for 3 months. Valid Pixel subscribed. Thank you very much. And the Maverick Girl hosted us. So thanks much for that.
Oh, thank you guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Absolutely.
Oh.
So, please, we want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, CardHoarder.com, my co-host, Aaron Campbell, and Ruben Bressler, you guys for watching/listening. I hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe, do everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online at twitch.tv at Magic Mics, on Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Talk to us privately at magicmicspodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at magicmicspodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week. Same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.
Good outro. I owe Aaron $1.
Got there. Hashtag professionalism.
You can smuggle me one of them tamales in your fanny pack.
Oh my god.
Oh, my God.
That was the best thing to wake up to the other day. I remember waking up to it. I was laying in bed looking at my phone, and I was like, "What?"
Not a euphemism, kids.
I know.
There was a tamale in your... All right, we got to go.
We'll get to it in the after show.
Good night, everybody.
Oh my god.